So welcome everyone. We are hosting our community highlight event, and we're highlighting two newly developed integrated communities in Michigan. Our presenters are Bill Godfrey from Three Oaks Communities, which has developed Maple Oaks Community in Michigan, and Joe Yakulis and Dina Fisher from St. Louis Center, which has opened several new homes in St. Louis Guanella Village, which is a long-term legacy project of St. Louis Center. First, we will present on Maple Oaks. Bill will present on Maple Oaks, and then we will open up for questions. Next, Joe and Dina will present on St. Louis Guanella Village, and we will open up for questions in the end. We have a lot to cover, so let's begin. Please, Bill, please go ahead.
Thanks, Ashley. My name is Bill Godfrey, and I'm from Three Oaks Communities, and we're based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we build inclusive neighborhoods that include housing for sale to IDD adults and their families, as well as the general public. My two partners are John Zanowski and Bruce Michael, and the three of us have committed to building additional neighborhoods now in Rochester Hills, Michigan. So we have three more neighborhoods following that are now in the works on the drawing board. We're just going through the planning process for that. But I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'll go through, and then I'll be happy to answer questions. Our mission is to build inclusive neighborhoods for the general public that promote greater independence, integration, and choice for IDD home buyers and their families. This all got started 5 years ago. I was asked to attend a meeting of Liberty Housing of Saline. It was a group of families that had been working on trying to come up with a way to build housing for their special needs sons and daughters. And this was the night of the meeting. There was a rainbow in the parking lot, so I took a picture of it. so I took it as a pretty good sign. After that meeting, I did some research and found out that IDD housing demand is much greater than the supply, that one size does not fit all, that IDD housing and services are required. And in order to deliver both the housing and the services, at least 25% of the homes have to be dedicated to special needs adults. Other research we did after being contacted by the families was that this housing, if we build it, would have to be integrated versus isolated. We prefer ownership versus rental so that we don't require any public subsidy. All of our projects are privately funded, not publicly funded or through subsidies. And we tried to keep it affordable too, versus building something that was on the higher end of the housing market. So we came up with this inclusive neighborhoods concept after several meetings with the families in Saline, and came back to them and said, what if we built a small neighborhood in an infill location, and we build homes for the general public and for you if you're interested, and also homes for your sons and daughters. And then you would help organize the caregiving services for the neighborhood. We will try to make it as affordable as possible for both you and your children. We'll make it accessible. Our designs are ADA compliant, and our neighborhood concept is integrated. It's not only connected, it's not only integrated within the neighborhood, but it's also in this particular location that we're in Saline. It's very close to all the community resources, the shopping and other local recreational activities and other local resources. The nice thing about our concept is that mom and dad and siblings can live next door, and that did happen in Saline, and we expect it will happen in Rochester Hills. The neighbors embraced the concept. Not one person had a concern that they were going to have a special needs adult as a neighbor. There was a leap of faith in all of this because the services weren't in place yet, but we knew that if we just built a neighborhood and got started, that it would evolve and new opportunities would emerge. And
here's Bill Godfrey.
Very collaborative effort between ourselves, the parent group, and the city of Saline. This is a site plan we started with. It's all single family homes basically, with some areas that were just going to be designated for special needs housing. And after the working with the city and the families, this is what the final site plan looks like. It's 10 single family lots on the left, 16 duplex townhomes as you work your way around the cul-de-sac, and 2 IDD condominium buildings 19 and 28. There are 4 separate condominiums within each one of those buildings. So there are 4 plexes, and each condominium has its own legal description. So it's a separate unit. And we had gone to the county actually and asked to build more density, maybe put 8 units on building 28 and 19, but they came back and said that they had a concern about putting too many IDD adults in one location. So we came up with this design with the families to design a 4-plex comprised of 2-bedroom, 1-bath condominiums that could be customized by the families. And we started to sell out very quickly. By the time we broke ground on the project, we had pre-sold 18 of these homes. This is literally how we started with the families. We started on a whiteboard and started designing this building. And we brought our architect in and we did several design charrettes. There's one of the families helping us work through the design of their son's unit. And my 2 partners, Bruce is in the foreground and Jay-Z's in the right there. That woman actually is Jackie Macy, who runs Liberty Club of Saline. It's a day program Monday through Thursday for IDD adults. And she and her husband bought a house in the neighborhood, and they also bought a condominium for Chris, who's in the foreground there on the right. This is what the building finally looked like when we got to the blueprint stage. You can see the 4 units. It's a double loaded corridor with 2 units on either side of the corridor, a common space, and then a 4-car garage. Some of our IDD home buyers actually have driver's license and jobs. So they wanted to have this garage for those folks, but also for the caregivers, especially during the wintertime. The desk in the common area is really set up to be for the overnight person so that they can be in the building overnight to make sure everybody's safe and secure overnight. This is the drawing of the exterior elevation of the building. And this is what it ended up looking like. It actually has real grass now, or more grass. That's all straw on the ground there. But all 4 units have closed. The guys it's all guys. Jacob, Bill, Chris, and Bruce have all moved in, and 2 of the moms and dads live across the street. And one of the units in this building was modified so that mom and dad could spend part of their time with their son, Bruce. This is what the single families look like. We did 2 styles of single family, a ranch home, 1,600 square foot ranch, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and then a 2-story home. And this is lot number 2. This is how it turned out. Everybody got to pick the color of their front door. And so this is the Dickinson's house. They picked yellow. And they both work at University of Michigan. So that's probably why they picked yellow. And this is our 2-story design. It's 3-bedroom, but it's got a powder room. So it's 2.5 baths. And this is what it turned out to be. That's not a great picture because the sunlight's not on the building, but they're very nice, clean, simple craftsman style homes. This is a rendering of what the neighborhood was going to look like. And unfortunately, I don't have a picture that matches this, but this is what the neighborhood looks like now on a sunny day. The exciting thing about Maple Oaks is that it proved the concept that it could be done. We sold all of our IDD homes. They were pre-sold, in fact. We sold 100% of our general public homes. They were pre-sold, and most of those are closed now. Almost everything's closed. We only have, I think, 8 more homes to close, and all but 4 of the homes are actually finished. In total, 35% of the homes purchased were by IDD homeowners, their parents, and caregivers, believe it or not. We have a caregiver living in one of the townhouses that does therapy for autistic children. 65% of the homes were just purchased by working families, single people, older, active adults downsizing into smaller homes. And the neighborhood is in a really good position to become a hub for caregiving services. And services are going to be provided by a group out of Monroe, Michigan, which is about a half hour south of Saline. I mentioned our 3 new neighborhoods in Rochester Hills. They're called Walton Oaks, Auburn Oaks, and South Oaks. They're all within, it just by accident, it turned out that they were all within about two or 3 miles of each other. So it's actually going to give make the service model as well as our construction much more efficient. So everybody's really excited about these 3 locations. And I just, before the call started, I mentioned we're working on Maple Oaks North, which will be a mixed use building that will include rental apartments for IDD adults, as well as first floor commercial space for IDD enrichment activities. And our goal is to provide, to create some employment opportunities for special needs adults in that building as well. The plan for Rochester Hills is to build 32 IDD homes across those 3 neighborhoods and 68 market rate homes, so about 100 homes altogether. And again, our rule of thumb is going to be that 25% of the homes are going to be purchased, at least 25% are going to be purchased by IDD homeowners. And hopefully their families will purchase additional homes to be close by. We're only doing right now in Rochester Hills for sale only. The rental option may be available after the initial purchases. And that's one of the things that's really emerged in the Rochester model that we're developing with the families. They're pretty confident that some of the homeowners that buy the condos will also rent that extra bedroom to somebody that can't afford to purchase a condo. So there's almost this built-in rental feature it's not explicit, but it does look like it's a natural win-win, because the homeowner can rent the extra bedroom to a compatible roommate and defray the cost of ownership, and the roommate can get into the neighborhood and benefit without having to purchase a condominium. Another thing, there are all kinds of things that have emerged from this leap of faith. This is probably the most important one, I think, besides the construction part. There's this, all of our neighborhoods are homeowners associations, and within them there are sub-associations. And we created that so the IDD homeowners could have their own association and their own voice within the neighborhood. And that's really important in terms of the governance, long-term governance of the neighborhood. So we require that. And the parents and guardians organize the entire HOA and structure the fees. They customize the homes and common areas. They manage the training for housing and services and caregiving services. And they're part of the larger HOA. And it's turned out in Saline, the families didn't start early enough on it. They're making great progress now, but the families in Rochester Hills are making tremendous progress because they see an opportunity to create a sustainable service model that incorporates the Center for Independent Futures community builder position, which they've got a really nice model for managing caregiving and housing for IDD adults. They're based in Evanston, Illinois. And the families in Rochester Hills have embraced that model and then tweaked it a little bit. And they have an opportunity here by creating some sustainable financial resources around that service, that model of creating something that will continue long after they're not involved in the HOA. And I won't get into the details of that just yet, but it's very exciting because it's sustainable, and it minimizes or eliminates the need to raise money every year to sustain your housing, your service model. I don't know why I put this slide in here other than just to show you one of the other new cool things that has emerged is that the cities, Rochester Hills and Saline and some of the other cities we've spoken to are okay with approving an entire neighborhood with something called flex lots. So because we don't know exactly what we're going to need, it really depends on the needs of the families. We've asked the cities to consider approving our site plan with flex lots until we really know what's going to be built there. Because we might have, in addition to our fourplex, we might have something different there. These are just drawings of cottages on the left, a fourplex in the center, and I think a fourplex on the right, another version of the fourplex. We've designed little cottages. They tend to be for high functioning IDD adults, lower and medium functioning IDD adults. So that the ones we've encountered seem to prefer the attached housing instead of the detached housing. And just the floor plans of the cottages is another picture of it. And that's it.
I think one of the most important factors of this project is the experience and the knowledge, the expertise that you bring to the table as an experienced developer is a huge, factor. So I think people should understand that, it's great to be informed of these type of communities and projects, but, please turn to an expert like Bill and others like him. And it's okay. You don't have to figure it out all on your own, because we have experts like Bill that's available to talk to you. So thank you so much, Bill. I'm sure if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to Bill separately. So next we have another Michigan player, and that will be St. Louis Center, Joe Yakulis and Dina Fisher from St. Louis Center, that will present on St. Guanella Village, St. Louis Guanella Village. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you, Ashley. It's an honor to be here today representing St. Louis Center. And along with me today will be Dina Fisher, who's COO of operations at St. Louis Center as well. St. Louis Center has a long history, and we're actually, we just celebrated our 60th anniversary last year. And so what we'd like to do is start out by showing you a little retrospective on what St. Louis Center is all about. So I have a video for you. It's about 4 minutes long, and then we'll go into the history of St. Louis Center. So here we go. Whoops.
I can tell Matthew is happy. First of all, his smile is an infectious smile. He smiles a lot when he's here, by the way. And he holds himself high. You can see this by his posture.
Or he'll just come up and give you a hug. It's okay. I don't know what's okay, but it's all right.
Everybody have a dry hand?
Yeah.
What I want you to do is actually take this leaf, rub it in your finger, rub it between your fingers.
We try to offer our residents here the best quality of life that we possibly can.
Oh, that's good. Good enough.
St. Louis Center is a home for 70 people, both children and adults, with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Been here since 1960.
We have about 70 people in our campus. There are 70 families behind. So multiply at least by 4, you will see how many people are touched by what we are doing.
Thank you. Have a nice day, Counselor.
Okay, thank you.
The community at large supports us because they see what we provide to the families as a vital service.
Mom fell in the kitchen one day getting Matthew's lunch ready. And that was about a year after Dad had passed away. Well, our family was experiencing what we knew would happen at some point in our lifetime. And that's how do we take care of Matthew when something happens to Mom and Dad.
She's got 2 brothers and a sister. Oh, Ma, we'll take care of them. I didn't want to put that on them. I don't want to cry. But that's a lot to put on a sibling. Because they have their own lives, they have their own careers, they have their own families. So I thought, no, I want to get them set up and established.
Number one thing that I hear is what's going to happen to my child after I'm gone. 75% of most families who have a child with a developmental disability take care of that child throughout their whole lives until they can't do it anymore.
So we decided, why don't we do both things together at once?
Legacy Project is now in its 9th year, and that's why we have so much building and construction going on right now.
It's really Father Enzel's concept of having an integrated community.
how does that happen? How does that look like? It's never really been done before.
When we started to envision this, and people told us we were crazy. So yeah, we need to be crazy for the future.
We will have a community here in which people with disabilities and people without disabilities live together.
That's going to have single-family housing, multi-family housing.
You know, when I was first getting introduced to St. Louis Center, when they would talk about this vision of creating a community that was very nurturing, it's very unique. I think it's the best kept secret in the country.
And it will literally be a village community that will also include a wellness center, a chapel, a retail shop.
And it will be a project that we will never see the end of. But I'm going to drive by here when I'm 80 years old, and they're still going to be building stuff here.
It's all about the quality of life. God puts us here for a limited amount of time. And we have to use that time as wisely as we can. The people that live here deserve just as much out of their life as we do. They still need to eat, they still need to sleep, they still need to go out and have fun every day. And we try to provide them with that quality of life. And they deserve it just as much as anybody else.
All right, so I'm sure that there's a lot of folks that are on this call right now that can associate with what some of the parents were feeling, that parents and siblings were feeling at the beginning. But I want to start out with some history and just talk about what we're all about, because you saw the religious influence that exists here, and St. Louis Center is run by the Servants of Charity, who are a congregation of priests that began in Italy. They were founded in 1908 by St. Louis Guanella. And St. Louis Guanella was a priest who lived from 1842 to 1915 and gave his life to caring for the poorest of the poor, especially people with disabilities and the frail elderly. So he began putting together institutes throughout Italy and then expanded into South America, and eventually actually came to the United States in 1912 before he died. But the Servants of Charity were created in 1908, and eventually they were brought to Michigan and Pennsylvania by two bishops that were very prominent at that time. So Cardinal John Dearden brought the Servants of Charity to the Archdiocese of Detroit, which Washtenaw County used to be a part of, in 1959, 1960, and they started building the facility. So the first name was St. Louis School for Exceptional Boys. And we started out with 60 boys that occupied two sides of the building. And then as time went on, it was obvious that we needed to expand our facilities. So there were a couple of segments that were built in the back of the building, on the east side of the building, Knights of Columbus Hall and Alhambra Hall, two organizations that care for people with disabilities. So that took place in the 1960s. And then as time went on and the children were aging out of the program, they come to the priest literally in tears saying, "Please, Father, don't send me back there. I don't want to go back. This is the only home I've ever known. This is where my friends are at." And so they built a couple of new facilities called St. Joseph Hall and Father Guanella Halls to take care of the residents that were aging out of the children's program. And also, of course, most of you know that in the mid-70s, in 1975, the IDEA Act was passed by Congress, which said that any child with a disability is entitled to a public education. So the name changed from St. Louis School to St. Louis Center, and then the education program, the daily education program, was abandoned, and then the kids were bused into the local public schools in Chelsea and beyond. So St. Joe Hall and Father Guanella Halls were built in the 1980s. And then during the 20-year period between 1990 and 2010, it became more of a matter of community integration. And the purpose of that was to help to fund the programs and operations of St. Louis Center, because as time went on, things got more expensive, more complex, more legal issues to deal with. And so we had to begin an aggressive fundraising campaign and start a lot of different fundraisers to be able to sustain ourselves. And we also started taking in adult women in the year 2000 when Our Lady of Providence program closed down in the year 2000. We brought in 10 adult women, and placed them in the west wing of the Guanella Hall. Then in 2010, we celebrated our 50th anniversary, patted ourselves on the back, popped a cork of champagne, and said, well, where do we go from here? And it was obvious that if we didn't start growing and modernizing our facilities, that we were going to be left behind. So we hired a development director and embarked on an aggressive growth campaign. So this is what we did as we began to grow. In 2011, the left slide, the left photograph shows you a picture of the Family Welcome and Orientation Center. That was the first thing that was built to expand our administrative offices and conference rooms. And then in 2013, we bulldozed the old playground and built a new special needs playground for our residents. And then in 2014, we turned Father Guanella Hall into an assisted living program. So both sides, so we have the west wing for the ladies program, but the east wing is for our adults who are aging, and in some cases with our some of our Down syndrome folks, several of them are aging faster than the rest of the population and needed a little bit more help. So that's why we have the assisted living program. And then we started to develop a concept for St. Louis Guanella Village. And the first thing that went into St. Louis Guanella Village was 4 children's homes. So first thing we had to do was build the infrastructure, roads, water, and sewer to accommodate those homes. And then in 2018, we built those 4 children's homes. Each one has 5 rooms in them, along with a dining room, a living room when you first walk in the door, and then a play area as well. So they're all, and they each have bedrooms for each resident has his or her own bedroom. So 3 of the houses are for boys, and the 4th house is for girls that we have here. So then, after building the children's homes, phase 2 became the next part of the village. So you saw the aerial view that was shot with a drone a couple of years ago, when we said that we were 9 years along in the project. So now we're 11 years along in the project. And that aerial view showed the children's homes. So this next section in phase 2 is north of where the children's homes are, and starts out by including a single family home, a 2-family duplex, and the duplexes are about 1,000 square feet each, and then an administrative office, which is going to be used for rental services or leasing agreements. And then the other thing that we have is 2 cottage homes. So right now we're trying to somewhat decentralize what we're doing and deinstitutionalize, which is what the state and federal government really wants us to do. And so we have 2 cottage homes that were built for our residents. One of them has, the Newman House has 4 rooms, and the Diademo House has 6 rooms. And our residents just moved into them last month on March 15th. And they were very, very happy to get into those new houses with their own new rooms. So one of the questions that I was asked by Ashley was, what's the demographics of St. Louis Center? We've been around, like I say, since 1960. And currently our client population is at 70 residents. We have 56 men and boys and 14 women and girls. Many of the residents are autistic. Many have multiple medical challenges that we have a medical staff here to take care of. And there are many that also have behavioral challenges. And I'm going to turn this over to Dina Fisher now, our COO, who is a clinician with an MSW, and she's going to handle the rest of the program here. Dina?
Okay, so we have a number of programs that we offer to our residents. We do have 24-hour nursing. We have 24-hour clinical ability to reach a clinician. We are specializing in Montessori training. We have done a lot to introduce the concepts that Maria Montessori had to our senior population, which is more about them making the choices. You know, we don't plan activities now. We ask them where they want to go. Our children up through age 26 and our young adults all go to public school. So the yellow school bus comes every day, several of them, and picks the kids up and takes them to, well, such as it is with the pandemic, not so much school as there used to be. Our adults that are capable are going to competitive wage jobs. We have the wave bus that comes and picks them up and drops them off twice a day. And we also have the ability to for any of our residents who want to go into the community to call the wave bus and come and get picked up. We have some sheltered workshops that some of our residents go to, day activity programs for our senior residents who are experiencing dementia or who are just of an age to have retired. They can stay here and we provide them with activities during the day. On campus, we have recreation, adaptive movement, music therapy, cooking classes, pet therapy, and we have the Action Club here that runs the recycling program. So we have a number of things that they do on campus. Prior to the pandemic, most evenings were spent with the residents going to community activities, such as Bible studies at various churches. They went to the wellness center to work out there. They go to the library quite a bit and participate in different activities there. The senior center. So they were very active in the community. Unfortunately, most of those programs have been shut down, but we are hoping that they'll reopen soon. We do specialize in trauma-informed care for children with IDD and autism, and we have a psychiatrist that we consult with on campus here. You can see here our finance. We are heavily supported through benevolent care, which is a number of donors who are very generous to us. Because we know that the state is moving away from large campuses, we are working very hard to become more of a home and community-based program and downsize. But in order to do that, there's a lot of benevolent care that we've been able to get, a lot of donors that have been very generous to us. So you can see here a brief breakdown of where our money is coming from. 57% of the service revenue is from the MDHHS. The children that we have on our campus are primarily foster children that have IDD. It's very difficult to find foster parents who are able to provide the kind of 24-hour care that our residents need. 43% is the resident Social Security, the county CMHs, and families. We have a number of residents that are privately paced with only support from their Social Security. And we are not an ICF, although we often get confused that we do not have farm income, but we do get a number of grants. Most of our grants are here to help us provide the trauma-informed care or the Montessori informed care that we're offering. So, you know, as we started this whole project, we started as a very, a private school for boys with IDD, a boarding school. And we have evolved over the years to becoming an independent agency that has several subdivisions on our property. We were gifted the property many, many years ago. And so we have a children's subdivision and we have the new group home subdivision with the private homes, which we are hoping very soon to have renters in. Now, we did choose the renting model because the property was deeded to the Servants of Charity, which is the organization of priests that owns us. We cannot sell the property. So we are looking at providing lifelong leases to people who want to live in either the duplex or the single family home. One of the things that Ashley asked me to talk about a little bit is how we service our residents with behavioral challenges. And the type of residents that we have here on in our agency are those that are more severely disabled, very low functioning, no safety skills, and the residents that in an apartment or a condo would need to have 24-hour awake face-to-face supervision in order to stay safe. So, you know, all of our programs have a very strong structure and routine. Mostly what we know about kids and adults with autism is that they transitions are very hard for them. So we try to minimize the transitions that they have that are not pre-planned, that they can be prepared for. We have a psychiatrist and a trauma therapist and a nurse on staff. Again, one of the priests that live with us is a nurse, so we have 24/7 nursing here. We provide ongoing, frequent staff training on how to de-escalate those situations as the residents might be getting anxious or angry about things, that our staff know how to approach that so that it doesn't necessarily get aggressive. We're not always successful in that, but we do recognize that many of the kids that come to us have had abuse, neglect in their background. The adults that come to us have been often cared for by parents who are trying very, very hard to give them a lot of structure, but it's not always easy in a family home, especially if there's other children that need attention, to be able to give these residents the kind of attention that they need. We provide one-to-one care for those with higher behavioral needs. That's where we have a staff who is dedicated to that person alone. So the residents live at St. Louis Center, but all of the activities and programs are provided in the community. The children are bused, children and young adults are bused to the Chelsea Public Schools. They take the public transportation to wherever they want to go. All their haircuts, medical care, dental care, and recreational activities are all completed in the community. And those services provided in-house are mostly limited to those folks that are too medically fragile or behavioral to be able to go to community programs. And there are no reimbursements for any of these programs. It's all part of the services here. So our vision for the village right now, we have the subdivision that is, point to the subdivision we just built, Joe, with your, well, that's the children's homes. And this is the subdivision we just built over here with the two smaller group homes and the individual homes. The rest of this is all in the plan. And like I said in my video, we'll still be building this when I'm 80 years old, because it takes time to raise the money, and we are dedicated to having the money to build it before we raise it, before we start building. So we're trying really hard not to have to take out loans and things.
These are the 4 children's homes here that you saw in the aerial view earlier in the video. Oops, there you go.
So the type of people that we are looking for, we are hoping to build as many as 20 homes. Right now we have 1 single home and 1 duplex that we are looking for resident folks to rent from us. Our people we are looking to rent would be folks that perhaps they have a child with IDD and they're growing older, and they don't necessarily want to put their kid in a group home, but they want a place to live where they would have access to services. And then maybe they can go out for the weekend and they'll have access to services already in the place that they're familiar with living with their family. Or children, or folks that have children with autism and want access to Chelsea Public Schools and Washtenaw County schools, which are very good schools for folks with special ed. We are looking at folks that will want to enter into a lease agreement, and we will negotiate the terms of the agreement, and also that it will be a menu of services that they will have, so that people can select whether they want housekeeping, whether they want access to the recreational programs, whether they want us to help them select caregivers for their home, or whether they want to handle all of those on their end. So it's going to be a menu that they'll be able to pick from.
And one of the things that keeps our costs down is that we're on a 180-acre site of land, so we don't have to go out and buy land to make this development happen. And there are a number of large structures that we're planning on building down the road that include this village center with a chapel, a rectory, a rec center, and a small convenience store later on down the road. Go ahead, Dina.
So we are, of course, looking at heightened scrutiny and, fighting hard to meet home and community-based services. We're doing this by decentralizing our building. We are overcoming this by providing all of the services in the community so that our residents feel very comfortable going into Chelsea and doing what they want to while they're there. We are strongly advocating with our state legislators and congressmen to make sure that our residents continue to have a choice to live in a place. We have residents that have been here for 40 years, and we are working very hard to make sure that they continue to have the choice to live in our type of organization instead of moving into an apartment or a smaller group home where they don't have family, and we have very much become their family. So here's a little story, just a couple of little stories to look at what we're about. So Lisa gets up at 6. She catches the bus. The Wade bus comes at 7, picks her up to go to her work program. She comes back at 2:30. 3 days a week, she catches the Wade bus to go into Chelsea, where she works at the courthouse. On the other days of the week, she has options in town or at St. Louis Center. On the weekends, she usually heads home to her sister's house. And if she needs personal services, she makes an appointment through her social worker, who will take her on any outings that she wants at the time she chooses. Because we have so many staff, many group homes, for example, if one person wants to go bowling and the other 2 people don't, well, they only have enough staff to be in one place or the other. So they have to either stay home or everybody has to go bowling. If a resident needs to go to the doctor, they all have to go to the doctor unless a parent comes and takes them. Here, because we have so many social workers and other staff, if one wants to go bowling, they can go bowling. Next, Joe.
There it is, Alex.
Oh, okay. So here's a story of a young man that we have had care of since he was 16. He's been in the foster care system. He was in a psychiatric hospital when we met him. He was nonverbal, very autistic, extremely violent. He'd be in and out of psychiatric hospitals for years. Finally, his parents had to refuse to pick him up to get him any services. So then the state placed him with us. As Alex reached his 18th birthday, the state had to start making plans for him to move into an adult program. Last week, at age 20, Alex moved into his new home in the Fort Cottage for 4 people. He is now housemates with guys he's known for 4 years. He has not been psychiatrically hospitalized in the past 4 years, has not had any violent outbursts in the past 2, and we have managed to learn ways to keep him calm in stressful situations and have built an environment around him that is beautiful and home-like while having the structure in place to keep him safe. One of the things that Alex would like to do was to put his head and his fists through walls. And so we actually were able to come up with a type of wall covering that he was not able to bust through with his head, and yet was still able to be safe in his room when he became anxious like that. So we really think Alex has transformed from, I mean, he's still nonverbal, he's still very autistic, but he's no longer extremely violent. He has learned to communicate, and he's been out of the psychiatric hospital for years and able to move into a house with friends that he has known, like any other 20-year-old might want to move into a house with a few of his buddies. And we've been very proud of being able to help him to make that transition into adulthood without it being extremely traumatic for him. So where we're going, we're going to continue to grow according to the vision of St. Louis Guanella. This vision will drive growth into the future, and more families will exercise their choice to come to Chelsea and live in this special community. What distinguishes us is that we have a mission. The staff that work here know that it's not a job, it is a mission. And that our philosophy of care and Guanellian values, recognizing the dignity of each resident and that each resident is a unique creation of God, and that each individual is given the opportunity to live their life to the fullest as God intends all of us to do. So that's what St. Louis Center is all about. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that I haven't already made clear. I know we only have a few more minutes.
And just geographically, it's ironic that we're in here with a presentation from Saline, because we're both from the same county. Saline's about 7 or 8 miles south of Ann Arbor, and Chelsea's about 15 miles west of Ann Arbor. But the difference between our facility and theirs is that we're out in the country, and we're about five miles west of the city of Chelsea itself. So we're out in the middle of farmland. And it also
it's a beautiful campus.
Beautiful, absolutely.